My name is Joshua, and I'm the Tribune. It's very important to understand something about God's character, is that not only does He love and care about you so much, and will do anything to make sure that you are safe, protected, and fulfilled, but He is very, very concerned about His missions being completed. Now, most people, when they think about commissions and the missions and God giving them mighty purpose or working with God, they only think of when they're actually doing it later in life. They don't think about what it takes to actually get to that place. They don't really think about what the preparation process looks like and where they would even do that. This is what this video is about. This video is about the place that God sets up for you in order to prepare in secret with Him and in private. Now, the situation that He brings for each one of us could be very different. Covering looks different for everybody, but it's important to find your covering as soon as possible, recognize it, and stand under it. Now, the problem with this that is very difficult for most people is it involves being humble. You cannot have pride and go into this covering. Because when I talk about covering, it sounds like it's just this wonderful thing. It sounds like, oh my gosh, God's covering. I'm just going to stand under His wing and just cuddle up in a ball and everything's great. And obviously, everything's going to be wonderful. No, it's absolutely not really how it is. Covering is where you have to sit in a place that doesn't look pleasant to you and doesn't look pleasant to other people. Now, there's a reason for that. It's because, one, God is protecting you and His preparation process. That's the first reason. Two, He allows you to work out things within yourself that you couldn't work out around people. So He might seclude you. Most likely, you won't have too many people around you when you find your covering. Now, in the covering is where you learn about yourself. It's about where you learn about Him. It's about where He actually starts ministering to you very intimately. This is why it's so important to stay there. Now, when you get in your covering, you are going to want to leave. You're going to want to get out, and you probably, once you get in, it will feel wonderful at first, but then once you realize that, wow, this is actually, I think I'm stuck in here. I feel stuck. That is okay, because that's normal. It's totally normal. So, I'm going to give you guys some examples about why covering is so beneficial for us. Okay. Let's say you have a job and you want to work with God and do something mighty, and you are not fulfilled at your workplace. You are not fulfilled in what you're doing. You know God has more for you. You know He's called you to more. You know this. Well, maybe He'll downsize you in your job. Maybe He will demote you. Why will He demote you? Because that job is actually taking up so much of your time. It's taking up so much of your time and energy that a demotion will free up maybe 5 hours for you. Now, that 5 hours, instead of scrambling to find a new job and scrambling to get things in order, and I'm losing this, I can't do this, and wow, I got to cut down on my eating, I can't go out to this restaurant that I can't do this, I like going here. That if you stop thinking like that in this situation and ask God, what before I start scrambling, let me see if this is covering. Because maybe I shouldn't scramble for another job. Maybe I shouldn't try to get my finances to be increased back to normal so I can, go on this trip. Maybe that's not what you should be doing. Maybe He's giving you the wonderful gift of extra time, and it takes a bit of sacrifice Maybe you have to sacrifice some entertainment for yourself so you can take those 5 hours a day that now you have freed up and sit with God. Now, this is not comfortable. This is something that at first feels very, very horrible. But the rewards of it are so magnificent that you won't believe what you come out with when you sit under God's covering. Now, some people, I was one of these people, I was trying so hard to get out of God's covering, and He shut everything down. Why? Because my purpose was very important to Him. It was too important to even let me get in my own way. So, for you, it could be the same way. Now, when you get in this covering, it's very important right away to don't put a timetable on it. Do not put a timetable on it, because what you're going to do is every time you set a timetable and He's not thinking about the timetable and He's not telling you, oh, well, I'm going to get you out at this time. Every time you set a timetable, you go through discouragement, and then you have to come back into the room, get your focus back, get your mind back, get your heart back in the right place, and then He picks up where He left off, whether it's talking to you, building with you, preparing with you. So this freed up time that He gives you with the uncomfortable covering doesn't look good to you or the people around you a lot of the times. People will think you look like you are failing, like I told you. That you will look like you don't even know what you're doing. You are wasting time. You are not taking life serious. This is what people will think about you. And that's very good for you. This is the best part of covering, second to the treasure that you get inside the cave with Him. Because what happens is this how you look like you're failing is a protection for you. The reason why it's a protection for you is because when people see that you're failing, you get to see their hearts. You get to see the people who are around you who only were around you because they thought that you were doing well. This is amazing. Oh my goodness. This is so powerful because in this place of purpose where He's taking you to, maybe there's some people around you cannot take with you. Maybe you don't realize that they'll try to destroy you later. Maybe you'll realize that they're only around you because of something that they thought they can get from you. You really find the true people who are supposed to be with you when you were in your covering and you were in a cave with God. You look like a fool, and people stand with you, and they don't even worry about it. That's because they really are for you. And this is what is so essential about covering, because you get to see everything. You get to see how everybody thinks. There are certain people too who are for you that might not look like they were for you, but you will get in your covering and go in the cave with God. And when you look like you're failing, because covering frees up time for you, then you will see that these people are very, very supportive of you. This is something to pay attention to. In the covering, He meets you in many different ways. He will meet you through situations. He will meet you in your study time in the Word. He will meet you through books. He will meet you through watching something that He leads you to watch. He will meet you on the inside. He will correct you. He will give you firm correction and just prune you and make sure that you are totally clean on the inside. He will actually cover you for as long as He wants to cover you in order to get the mission done, in order to get the preparation done. People who are prideful cannot do this because they're so concerned about how they look to everybody else and maybe even to themselves. Now, this is something that most people do not teach. They don't teach it because they think that people will not want to spend time with God. Now, the reason why it's very important not to look around you when you're in the covering is because very few people go through it. So you really don't get to see the power that comes out of your covering, because there's very few people you can actually look around the world and say, wow, they actually spent time with God and covering in a long season of preparation. No matter what anybody thought, they didn't do anything. If God said, you need to not have friends right now, you need to not have friends. If God says, no, you're not going to be going to the movies and hanging out with your friends on the weekend, then that's what needs to happen. No, you don't need a great job right now. I want you to have a part-time job because I need hours with you. No girlfriend, boyfriend, marriage? No, you don't need that right now. Now, how you trust him in all these things is you trust his character. First, it starts with faith. Faith is very important. Then after you have faith and you move into this position with him, you learn his character, you learn he's faithful. And by the way, the things he's giving you in the cave while you're under your very uncomfortable covering, these things are so valuable that it makes the covering totally worth it. So worth it that you would do it again and again and again. And the longer you stay in your covering, the more you are not even, I don't care how long I'm in the covering. It doesn't matter. In fact, maybe I should stay a little longer. Because the things he's talking to you about, they're going to be so amazing. And you're going to see, oh my gosh, this is why you don't see too many people operating with God like this. And you start to look around and see, wow, the success that most people have and that most people in the world worship, it's foolishness. It's absolute foolishness because these people rush. They're rushing into what they think is success. But no, they need to go to God, find their covering in him, spend time with him, let him transform their cave experience, their dungeon experience, into a conference room. And when you get through the shock of finding your covering and get through the pride that has to get burned out, because we all have a bit that needs to get burned out in these kind of situations. Once you get through that, he will sit at the table with you. He will sit at the table and say, I'm going to make a covenant with you. Now, it has this in it, this in it, this in it, this in it. And I am going to prepare with you now. This is the most beautiful thing you can imagine. If you can imagine the Almighty God sitting down at the table with you and saying, I have things that I want to talk to you about that nobody knows. Nobody even thinks about these things. This comes in covering. This comes when you're not getting distracted. Without covering, it's very easy to get distracted. Because without covering, there's so much going on around you. I would actually argue that one of the big coverings is a reduction in your finances. Bringing your finances down for a bit. He will do that. You know why he'll do that? Because when you have finances, you have the choice to do things that you didn't before. You have the opportunity to do whatever you want. I could take a trip this weekend. I can buy this weekend. Go out to eat. I'm going to go shopping. That's what I'm going to spend my weekend doing. No, that is waste of time. That's what that is, total waste. When you're one of the generals preparing with God. Because that time that you're shopping is a time you need to be in the conference room under your covering so he can speak to you. That's what he needs. So a lot of the pastors right now, they're telling people all the time that God is just always prepared to just dump down all these things, and just every week it's always he's just going to just, no. The most powerful thing is when he reduces those things. He brings them down low. And you go through some affliction. You go through some heart repairing. And it frees your time. So all these people out here, whether it's through the coronavirus or whether it's through before the coronavirus, you were already going through this, or you're about to go through it. If you see this happen and there's nothing that you feel like you can do about it, and you hear God talking to you, by the way, you have to be a Christian to get these principles. So you have to hear God talking to you. You know he's moving. He will come confirm these things to you. He will come find you, like I say. And then you find yourself in a place, in a wilderness, where he has reduced so many things, whether he's taken your friends away, removed you from some family members, and just started shutting things down. You need to rejoice. You need to be very happy, because it means he's going to start giving you a blueprint soon. When you're in your covering, it's important just to be obedient. That's all you have to do. It's not a hard process if you're obedient and you learn to be content. And how you be content is you trust his character. I remember I lost a job I had years ago. And I was shocked because the person who took the job that I had, it didn't even make any sense. It made no sense. I've even had it where I was supposed to get a position, and God refused to allow it and gave somebody else the position that everybody was shocked. Well, how did this even happen? And I'm like, Lord, how did this happen? This is crazy. Doesn't make any sense. He's like, yeah, I did that to make sure that you know it was me. A lot of things, when things don't make sense and you're just shocked, it's because he's trying to make sure you know that he has ordered it. Now, it doesn't matter what all these other people are thinking, or it doesn't matter all the chatter. What matters is you now know, oh my gosh, he did this. It's impossible. Impossible. He did it. Now you need to go to the Father and say, okay, what happened here? Why didn't you do it? And he explained to me. He goes, that job it was a great job. But if you would have taken that job, it would have actually taken up so much time in your life that you would have left the covering. You would have missed all my preparation because you don't have time to talk to me about these things. And then you would have settled for something that was so down here that you would have been devastated. He also told me, now, if you would have taken that, the things that I had for you, I need to get done. I need to get them done, whether you do them or not. So I will reassign. He told me this. He said, I will reassign. And I know you don't want that, so I didn't let you have it. At that time, I had no idea what he even had planned. I had no idea what he was going to talk to me about. I was just shocked. I was like, well, then the next thing I was like, well, what are we going to do? I need to know this, because this thing that you actually stripped away was, people would kill for that. So now I'm really fascinated. And this is how he guides you into place, into the preparation. This is how he guides you on the journey. So it's very important to stay in your covering and recognize it. It's a protection for you. It opens up time. It frees time for you because God's plans take time to prepare. He's not a genie where you just don't have to do anything and he just snaps and it's just there and suddenly you're prepared. No, because the process of preparation, it also prepares you inside in your heart. It also gives you a firm foundation. It gives you understanding of yourself. It gives you understanding of Him. It gives you friendship with Him. It shows you your people. It shows you who you could trust. It shows you who you cannot trust. The enemy, it does not have revelation about people who are in this controlled environment that I'm talking about. This covering. Whether it's through people or situation, whatever it is. That's why it's so valuable. It's just like Christ, He did that Himself. He covered Himself and hid Himself in flesh when He came here. God came here to earth. If the enemy would have known what He was doing when He crucified Him, He would have never done it. Oh, it's because of the covering. There's many times in the Scripture where God covers things and covers Himself. It's a strategy. And we have to make sure that we pay attention to that side of His character. So people might ask, what if I'm in covering and I don't know it? Or what if I'm, it can go either way. What if I'm in covering and don't know it? And what if I'm not in covering and I should be in covering? The answer to that is obedience. That's what it is. Remember, God will actually find you. He will make sure you know. You have to pay attention. You have to find unusual situations. Somebody who says, you can come over here. Come over here. You can save this. You don't have to do this. Just come on over here. It could be covering. You need to make sure you check that out. Now, if you're not in covering and you want to find your covering, then the first thing you do is you need to seek Him. Because in order to know where your covering is, you have to know kind of what your mission is going to be. He will start speaking to your heart about what He has for you, and it will be clues to what kind of covering you need. This is what is valuable. It's all about relationship and trust. So find your covering and do powerful preparation with Him. Remember, it won't feel comfortable. You'll look like you're failing. But I promise that it won't feel as bad as time goes on, because your covering will give you so much treasure that you won't know what to do with it. If I put you in a cave and you just stayed in there and suddenly I started just bringing in truckloads of treasure and just putting it in there with you and saying, just hold it for a second, just hold it, you would be foolish to complain. Especially if you knew me and you knew my character and you knew he's not gonna destroy me or anything. He loves me. He loves me. He wants the best for me. And He has me in a cave in secret, and He's just bringing in truckloads of treasure and saying, just keep this and organize this, please. Just organize it and I'll be back. And I just keep coming and coming. I argue that you would actually be very disappointed when you come out of the cave. Oh, don't you have another truckload? Times that by 1,000,000. And that's how your covering is going to be. Hail Jehovah.